Today, I want to talk about this atrocious itemization from Maokai that we've been seeing consistently in pro play for the past couple months now. But before we dive too far in, I want you guys to watch this clip and watch the Maokai in particular. You can see that the Maokai there just got absolutely insta-nuked by this Lucian. Why is that? That is because Yike, and I'm not going to throw him in particular under the bus because pretty much all Maokais I've seen in competitive play do this. They believe and delude themselves into believing that Maokai is an AP threat, is an AP jungler. That simply is not the case and is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. An AP jungler is something else that we see in the meta like Zyra, Brand, Karthus, Fiddlesticks, even Nidalee is more of an AP threat than Maokai. Maokai is designed to be a tank champion. So the fact of the matter is, when you play Maokai with First Strike and Liandry's, you're not tanky, you can't survive, you have no durability. This is the complete wrong way to play Maokai, especially in this game on G2 because you already have Rumble as an AP threat. This Maokai build does absolutely nothing. You're basically saying that you're going to reduce your entire value in the game to throwing your saplings in a bush and hoping they hit the enemy team for, I don't know, maybe 100, 200 damage at a time. Basically, Maokai becomes quote-unquote annoying at this point instead of actually useful in the OP broken champion that he actually is if built properly. What's a proper Maokai build? Well, it starts with your rune setup. You're going to want to go Aftershock. This makes sure that you can actually engage and survive in the middle of a team fight. When you W in, you're going to get that Aftershock proc, and then you're going to be able to dive in and get a really nice Q and the rest of your combo off. As well, your ult will also proc Aftershock. This is how you want to play Maokai. You want to be able to engage, and you want to be able to be tanky and buy space for your front line, or your back line rather. Maokai is a very good champion at buying space and creating space with his CC. He has a lot of CC, as the Maokai also just misses the smite on that Baron. If the First Strike AP Maokai build just doesn't do anything. Sure, it could be fun in normal games with your friends, but it literally doesn't do anything. Like, you're relying on your sapling tosses to poke out enemies before objectives. The saplings are great for vision control and knowing where the enemies are before objectives. That purpose they're great for, but you're not a damage threat on Maokai, so stop deluding yourself into thinking you are. It's really embarrassing that pro junglers actually believe that this is good. It's just simply delusional and really trash can itemization. This game into double marksman, I would just probably go into my Bomby Cinder item first to help with jungle clear, Merc Treads for boots, and then probably a Frozen Heart, maybe a Randuin's to deal with the double ADCs, and then a Jack Show. And that way you're actually going to be durable, you're actually going to be countering the enemy marksman with Frozen Heart, you're actually going to be able to last in team fights instead of just getting instantly blown up by the enemy Lucian. And you're actually going to have value inside of the game because you'll be able to function. Maokai is a champion that really needs to be able to survive and get his abilities off to have any sort of value. And when you have this First Strike Liandry's build, you're just relying on your sapling tosses and essentially you have no value inside of the game. When Maokai in and of itself is such a good champion, you just completely ruin your value inside of the game by doing this build. Also, I pointed out in one of my recent videos, last time Yike played Maokai as well, he built into, I want to say, he did Warmog second, and then he did Abyssal Mask third, when he didn't even have any other AP threats on his team. Abyssal Mask in this game would be pretty good, because enemy team is actually building quite a bit of magic resist, and you have Rumble to shred MR4. So Abyssal Mask in this game would actually be viable, but he built Abyssal Mask when he didn't have any AP threats on his team, and he was into triple marksman. So you can tell by this sort of thinking and this itemization that pro players don't really have the ability to think a lot of the time, especially when it comes to these smaller things like rune setup and itemization. Like I said, in this game, the Maokai itemization should literally just be your Bami's item for clear, your Merc Tread boots, which is right now the only thing he's done correctly, and then into actual tank items like Frozen Heart, Randuin's, Jack Show, Kanik Rookern if you really want some MR for the Zyra if she gets fed or something. Maokai's supposed to be a tank, so build tank items on the Maokai. It's just completely atrocious what these players have been doing recently on this champion, and it makes absolutely zero sense. It's basically saying in competitive play that, instead of building full tank Ornn, I'm going to build attack speed Ornn, or full AP Malphite, which honestly wouldn't be so horrible, but in competitive play it would definitely be hard to pull off. But AP Malphite's actually pretty good. Tip for you guys in solo queue. Either way, you can actually see it inside of this game. If you go back and watch game 1 of this series, you can see how useless the Maokai is. He gets off a really good start, stealing Zyra's red buff at level 1, and he should be able to just kind of chill, farm, focus around his bot side, maybe get early dragons, with Zyra wanting to focus on grubs probably, and go from there. Maokai's a really strong frontliner, a really strong team fighter with his ult and all of his friggin' CC. The champion's actually insane, but when you build him how he's not supposed to be built, he can't do anything, he can't function. Literally watch the Maokai in these fights, he doesn't actually do anything because of his itemization, and because his only purpose in the game with this build is throwing his E into bushes and hoping that the enemy runs into them. So it's just really, really bad, and it again displays pro players' inability to think and to actually realize their purpose in the game. Like in this game, if you were Yike, what are you entering the game thinking your purpose? What's your role inside of this game? I have double marksman and I have a really strong scaling AP top laner. What should be my role? It should literally only be to frontline and buy space for my carries. You don't need to be a damage threat. You have so much damage on this team already. There's no reason for you to be stacking or building any damage. You just need to be frontlining, buying space, and CCing enemy carries for your carries to be able to do damage. That's what the Maokai's role in this game should be. And that's what you all need to be asking yourself when you enter games. What's my role inside of this game? And it's pretty clear that Yike is unable to answer that question correctly, because he deludes himself into thinking that he needs to do damage when he already has a Corki, a Varus, and a Rumble on his team. He doesn't need to do damage, he doesn't need AP damage on his team because he has Rumble. The only purpose Maokai serves and should be serving in this game is frontlining and CCing enemy backline, and utilizing his ult in his CC in team fights. And if he built properly, he'd be able to do that. If he built actual tank items, he'd be able to do that. Look at Ornn's inventory. He has built actual tank items, so he can actually soak up a lot of the damage from the double marksman, and he can actually side lane pretty effectively against the Rumble because of how tanky he is. Maokai, while a jungler, to be fair, can't do that because he's built like this. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's going to go into that Abyssal Mask third again, which again, this game is perfectly acceptable. But the fact that he did it in a bad game last time he did this shows you that his brain's on autopilot. He's doing the same exact build every single game, and he can't actually adapt game to game what he should be building into any given team comp. And that, again, is a really clear sign that pro players a lot of the time cannot actually think about what their decisions are going to be, especially when it comes to things like runes and itemizations. And those are the things that I like to focus on, because runes and item builds are so misunderstood and so underlooked at in the scene that these things actually make a pretty significant difference inside of the game, but people don't actually point to builds as being significant. Another example of this is Static Shiv being built on literally almost every ADC, when Kraken Slayer is 100 times better as an item. You can see Varus actually having Kraken Slayer, Kinsu's, and is hopefully going into Wit's End third. He's going to be doing much more damage than the Ashe who built Static Shiv into Kraken Slayer, when in reality, Ashe builds should always just be Kraken, PD, Infinity Edge, and you're going to be doing loads of damage there. So I want to focus on the Maokai itemization today. It's just absolutely terrible, and if you're playing Maokai in competitive, do not do this build. Just please go full tank, take Aftershock, and just go full tank so you can serve your purpose correctly inside of the game. Thanks for watching. See you next time.